we get to here?
We are so over you guys acting like assholes. I'm more than happy to call the cops. This is the last fucking time.
So how did things escalate to this? Okay, we're gonna tell you guys what happened to drive us out of our apartment. We were harassed by our downstairs neighbor so much to the point that our landlord agreed to let us out of our lease early and give us back our full deposit. I'm Nina.
And I'm Randa, and we were actually not going to do a video about being harassed out of our apartment, but we are still being harassed today by our former downstairs neighbor. We're gonna call her Karen. I'm not gonna give her name, even though we moved out over a month ago and we live somewhere else now.
So this is what happened. Karen, who lived below us, she told our landlord that we were being too loud. She said she could hear us walking around in our apartment, and sometimes she could hear us walking at midnight.
Now, we take off our shoes before we come into our apartment. It's not like we're being loud walking around. I mean, we just walk around normally around our apartment.
And we never had parties. We really never did anything loud. At most, we might have like 1 or 2 people over. We'd play like a board game once or twice a month. Again,
nothing crazy.
We were in like lockdown at this point. Like we couldn't really do much.
I mean, I wish we could have had a party. So at this point, we hadn't even met Karen yet, and she would start banging on her ceiling with a broom and a mop handle, like super aggressively.
Boom, boom, like 10 times.
And we would hear just furious banging on our floor, like really loud at dinner time.
And one time we had a friend over when this happened, and his jaw dropped. He couldn't believe that someone would bang on the ceiling like this. I was sitting eating a bowl of cereal and not even walking around, and Karen would bang on her ceiling with a broom handle.
Yeah, apparently this is her way of communicating that she thought we were making too much noise or walking around our apartment too much. And bear in mind, this was just normal hours, like 7 or 8. And we were very sensitive to make sure we weren't being too loud.
Yeah, the landlord told us Karen was complaining about the situation, and the landlord said, work it out with each other.
Yeah, she didn't want to be involved.
Right, we hadn't even met Karen at this point.
So the next thing that happened a few days later is we get a comment on our YouTube video, and it says, "Please stop walking so loudly."
And then on another video, the same fake account posts, "You guys are the most inconsiderate neighbors, stomping around and making loud noises all through the night. How are you so oblivious to others around you?"
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, oh, whoa, this is our downstairs neighbor, and I didn't even know her name at this point. I hadn't even met her.
I mean, why wouldn't Karen just walk up the stairs and just talk to us like a normal person?
Or just get our phone number or something?
Yeah, and this was almost like a tipping point for us. Our neighbor was telling the landlady we were walking too loudly or whatever, and the landlady is saying, work it out, and then we're getting comments on our YouTube videos like this?
Right, it made me uncomfortable because it's like, are you gonna post where we live or something?
Yeah, because if somebody behaves like this, what else are they going to do?
Right. She wasn't behaving in a normal way.
Yeah.
So I just walked downstairs and I just knock on the door. I'm like, hey, did you or like the guy that lives with you make these comments on our YouTube channel? And she's, looking at the name of the person who made the comments, and she's like, oh, that's not me or my fiance's name. So no, that's not us. But I do feel that you're being maliciously loud. And then she says something like, last night I heard someone walking around at like 12:30 a.m. or whatever. I was like, I wasn't even home last night, and maybe you had gotten up to use the bathroom?
I probably walked into the apartment after hanging out with a friend. Nothing crazy.
Right. And then later, I ended up running into her fiance in the parking lot a few days later, and he brought up these YouTube comments to me, and he said that the comments, I guess, were made by Car's brother or like one of his friends, and that he shouldn't have done that. He reprimanded him, and that we should be good neighbors. Like, we don't want this to be awkward. He seemed like nice. Yeah. And so we like exchanged numbers, just like what normal neighbors would do, just so we could like communicate there and not through a fake account on YouTube.
So was it Karen who left the comments? Was it her brother or her friend? I don't know. It sure seemed to me that the comments were Karen, because the complaints being posted were about what she was saying.
Right.
About hearing us walk around our apartment.
A few weeks later, we had a different friend over. He is a medical student at USC, and this was about 11 o'clock at night. Our landlady came and knocked on our door, and they said that they were hearing this vibration from Karen's apartment, and that it started around 10:30.
They said they were hearing bass playing, like we were playing music.
Right.
But the thing is, we weren't playing any music, not at any time. And our friend chimed in that, yeah, there was no music being played. But I did turn on the dishwasher at around 10:30, and the landlord had said that the vibration was coming from the kitchen area.
Right, so it was just a lot of weirdness in 6 months. Having Karen bang on her ceiling super loud with her broom, sort of stalk us under these fake YouTube accounts, and then send the landlady over at 11 to our place saying we were playing music and there was no music. Yeah, we were just like, all right, let's talk to the landlord.
We were just uncomfortable in our home, and so we wrote to the landlord. We documented a number of fake comments and said, we want to be released from the lease 6 months early so we can move somewhere else.
And we are so lucky they actually agreed to this, and we ended up finding a really great place. And we're really lucky they agreed to this because you guys, maybe you've seen our new apartment now. It's bigger, the rent is cheaper, so it turned out to be like for the best for us. Let's talk about the rageful clip of Karen from the beginning of the video.
Yeah, I was just getting out of the shower. I had just put on my towel. It was around 6 p.m. And
Karen.
I just hear Nina screaming, Rana, someone's banging on our door. And I'm like scared, like putting on my towel.
Well, I was terrified because
I heard the banging too.
someone is banging and they've rung our doorbell 57 times. Yes, I watched back the clip. It was 57 times. Just as a side note, this is a great example of why you should get a Ring camera to document things that might happen. In fact, we actually have another video of our brother's skateboard being stolen. Let's go back to Karen.
She brought up the police.
I'm more than happy to call the cops.
So we actually called the police on her, and a cop came out and looked at our Ring footage. We also sent the footage to the landlady and texted her, and here's what I wrote about it. We called the police. He arrived and looked at the video and said it was clearly aggressive. He went to talk to number 4 to tell them to leave us alone. Number 4 is Karen's unit, but they didn't answer the door. We would appreciate if you would tell them to leave us alone.
And the landlady wrote back, we've spoken to the tenants, there should be no further interaction. So that was nice of the landlord to tell Karen to just leave us alone.
But ultimately, it didn't have much effect because, as we said a couple of days ago, the harassment restarted here on YouTube, even though we haven't lived there for over a month.
And here are some examples of the fake comments that she wrote. They moved because they were almost evicted for being such obnoxious neighbors. These girls are trash, and you guys perpetuate their behavior. I guess she's trying to insult you guys watching this as well. And here are some more posts from different fake accounts, and you can freeze it if you want to read more, but this one says they were going to be evicted because of how poorly they treated their neighbors and how obnoxious and immature they are, so they moved before they could be evicted.
So we forwarded a few of these to the landlady at the old building, and she wrote back and said, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We regret to hear this issue has continued. We don't know the source of the comments, nor did we ever tell any tenants that you were nearly evicted. What we can do is notify the tenants of your complaint today, and hopefully it will resolve the matter." So you might see these comments come up on our videos because they haven't stopped.
So if you see one, you can just respond back like, "Hi downstairs neighbor.
Hey Karen.
Hey Karen, what's good?"
Yeah.
And I honestly, I do like feel sorry for whoever is moving into our old apartment because they're gonna be dealing with Karen.
Yeah. So the moral of the story, maybe, is that if you find yourself in a toxic living situation where there's just a neighbor from hell, if you can get away from it, I would suggest getting out of your lease. That's just going to be the best thing you can do. The other tenants in our old building were all nice people, by the way, but one bad apple if she has a broom and a foul mouth and is willing to scream and make accusations and
Has a lot of time on her hands because I did count how many fake accounts, and it was like 20 that she made in a day.
It takes a long time to make an email too. Anyway, it's just not worth it.
Karen has so many emails.
Yeah, life's too short. Get out of the living situation.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully in the next video, there's gonna be a lot less drama.
I hope so.
Bye.
This is the last fucking time.